I share as our chalice lighting this morning words from an anonymous author who wrote this about our flaming chalice. This flame, symbolizing our free religious heritage, drawn so deeply from the well of our truth, calls us from our many different paths into this one place where we are now gathered. May we know in our hearts, our bones, our flesh, that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and wonder to each other, to this community, to nature, and to the great wide universe. As we gather, let us be mindful of the forces deep within us which have called us to this place and to the greater life that we have joined. May this hour bring renewal and hope and inspire us to nurture the gifts of love and service. Amen. Emily, thank you for that very beautiful story. Can you hear me okay? Imagine, if you will, that right over here to your right, there was a pond. A body of water filled that whole space that's empty, except for the grass and gravel right now. And imagine that the center of that pond was deep and the edges were shallow. And then imagine that a rock fell from the sky, and it was a large rock. It was about this size. And it fell from very high above, and it hit the water. And when it did, it would create, the energy of that impact would create waves that would spread out and move across. That's a device to wake everybody up, by the way. We do that periodically. There was a wave around that rock that went out, and it emanated every square inch of that pond. The bigger the rock, the bigger the effect would be. Just as there are physical shocks, there is something called an emotional shock wave. 10 years ago, my brother John had a massive heart attack. For about 2 weeks, he hovered between life and death. Thankfully, he recovered. I was living on the West Coast at the time, and I was handicapped in my ability to go visit him. And that event sent shockwaves through me, my sister Jane, his daughter Glennie, and his sons Jay and George, and through their spouses. It is impossible to intellectually describe that emotional shock, but it was real in its effect. And one of the consequences of it was I moved from the West Coast back closer to my family in the Southeast. Everyone here has encountered an emotional shock, indeed more than one emotional shock during the course of their lifetimes. And for many of you, you've known periods of time where emotional shocks come one after the other. The death of a loved one, the serious illness of a loved one, a dramatic job change, a dramatic shift in a relationship to a sibling or to a child or to a grandchild. In addition to these emotional shock waves, there are emotional shock waves that affect much larger groups of people that are so vast in their impact that they touch literally everyone in a relationship system of a state, of a nation, even beyond. For the last 20 years, and that is an arbitrary cutoff period, but for the last 20 years, this country has experienced one huge emotional shock after the other. During that 20-year period, it began with 9/11. Then there was the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008. Then the presidential election of 2016, that was a huge emotional shock to many here. A period of political and intense political turmoil in 2017 through 2019, and the presidential coup attempt of 2020 and the pandemic of 2020 that we are now experiencing. Each of these events created secondary emotional shocks. But furthermore, there are parts of our society, segments of our society, which affect and feel profound shocks that other people don't. For example, the black community in this country has experienced one emotional shock after the other. And one of them occurred on May the 25th, 2020, when George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, was murdered by a white police officers with the camera changing. And the impact of those images was this, I think, in talking to my friends who are in the black community, is that it was like a message which said, the white man is saying, we will kill you, and we will kill you with impunity, even if your violation is stealing something that's worth $20. And we'll do it when the camera is rolling, and we'll get away with it. And there's not anything you can do about it. And that was an emotional shock, as was all the harmful and horrendous things perpetuated against the black community. Additionally, a small segment of the adult population, approximately 5% or less, is deeply impacted by the ecological crisis. And in this community, and I know quite a number of members from this community, their thinking is not only do people not care about this, but there's a huge segment of our population which is antagonistic against those of us who are trying to raise the issue. And that bug is, it's a butterfly. All right, that's a sign. That's a sign now that I've really gotten to the truth. Okay, thank you, butterfly. Hey, I did not bribe that butterfly. It was just nature coming out to me. Okay, now, furthermore, let me give you another twist to this. And I heard about this on NPR, but I'd already read the study about it this week, and I mentioned it in one of the meetings I had on Tuesday. There was a very thorough academic study published in the Lancet Planetary Health magazine that found that 45% of young people aged 16 to 25 said that climate-related anxiety and distress is affecting their daily lives. Additionally, for many people, and I would include myself in this category, the political scene that we have experienced for the last 4 years or 5 years has been traumatizing. I will never forget, about 2 months after the former president was elected, I felt in my body something like a body blow. And the cause of it was, if I could detect it cognitively, the cause was 80 million people in this country support that person. and a significant number of powerful people support that person. And that hit me like a body blow. And many of you have had a similar experience. Okay. These societal shock waves that are real, that are powerful, affect all of us. And in addition to those, we, of course, suffer the emotional shocks of our private life. Well, where do they show up? Well, they show up right here. They show up with us gathered together with two sets of cables running between us with an orange cone on it, with cameras, with people partly in, partly out of the sun. They show up, and they have showed up in the meetings of school board meetings all over this country, where people who appear to be in the grip of a delusional passion threaten people with being fired or being thrown out or worse. The emotional shock wave showed up on January the 6th when a group of people tried to overthrow our government. The media in this country, by and large, feeds on controversy because that draws a viewership. But that orientation just feeds our own chronic anxiety and the emotional shocks that we have experienced. We are vulnerable to emotional shocks because they evoke fear in us. And fear has been with us a very long time, and fear is deep within all natural systems, and fear is something we share with all the members of the animal kingdom of which we are a branch. If something showed up on the horizon over there that was threatening, we would not think, we would automatically react with fear. It's a very deep passion. And also it is very vital, because if we had no fear, we would be dead as a species. So it's paradoxical. But these emotional shocks we have been experiencing have triggered our fear over and over again, to the point that for many people, being triggered is almost like a continual state of being. So it behooves us to be aware of these forces, that they are real, that they are powerful, and we don't have to agree with the people who are profoundly anxious. But we pick up their anxiety. If somebody comes to a school board meeting and rants and raves about vaccines, we don't agree with that person, but their anxiety is contagious if we are not careful. So it behooves all of us to seek peace, to be concerned with peace, to cultivate peace. In 1975, Dr. Herbert Benson of the Harvard Medical School published a very important book called The Relaxation Response. And one of Benson's conclusions was that the body and mind have the capacity to experience deep and restorative peacefulness, as well as chronic fear and anxiety. That is, the body, based on science, based on his medical orientation, the body itself is susceptible and open to and can be drawn into deeper states of peace. It will respond to certain things. Just as we respond to things that trigger our fear, the body and the mind can respond to things that evoke peace. And he called that capacity the relaxation response. It is the reverse process of what is known as the fight, flee, and freeze response. During acute stress, the fight or flight response is triggered naturally, and we can never get rid of it. This response was well suited to the environment of ancient humans. For in that context, a threat could mean life or death. Today, we have a mechanism of response that does not suit our modern, complex, rapidly changing world. And so many people find themselves in a prolonged, continual state of fight or flight or freeze, which overtaxes us physically and can be detrimental to our well-being, even to the point of physical illness. The goal of the relaxation response, as Dr. Benson developed it, was to reset the mind-body organism back to a physical and psychological state, the serene equilibrium, if you will, that was present to the prior encounter with the threat as we perceived it. Of course, what Dr. Benson was talking about is what religions have been talking about for thousands of years, particularly Buddhism. And Buddhism developed entire branches of practice that were devoted to the development of peace. And indeed, in these clinics in Harvard and elsewhere where scientists have studied deep restfulness, they have drawn upon the skill of what very, very skilled Buddhist monks have created. How can we evoke ourselves the relaxation response? There are many ways. Meditation, the repetition of mantras, guided imagery, prayer, understood as a you would understand it, of course, walking, especially in a natural setting. I was about to say worshiping out of doors, but I won't say that. Tai Chi, keeping a personal diary, something the early pioneers of our religious faith were into very deeply, and there are many other ways. The cultivation of peace needs to be, in my humble opinion, one of the fundamental activities of a congregation like ours, or any congregation. Not to flee reality, but to be able to be more deeply present to the reality of what is, that we might be more effective agents for whatever we can do to make this world a better place. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that makes this religious versus non-religious. What I'm talking about is the capacity of the human person that we have been given by evolution to have access to. It can be practiced by the Buddhist, the Christian, the humanist, the traditionalist, the non-committed, the confused, the ambivalent, and anyone in between. If you are interested in helping me support this ministry at this congregation to help people cultivate deeper peace, would you please let me know? And I know that there are many people who are already doing so, but I would like to know what you're doing and how I could help. May we now turn to our wonderful choir. Our words of meditation are from Gwen Matthews, entitled, Feel That. Each breath, every inhale, every exhale. Do you feel that? Do you feel that we are living, breathing, connected with life all around us. We are whole and complete. Do you feel that? That is how we were born. Do you feel in your bones, in your muscles, in your heart, and your blood the extraordinary process of life that you are? The you that was born into this time, this space, this place, this moment. Alive, precious, and unique. Do you feel that? The struggle, the worry, the pain, the loss, the regret, the grief, yes, it is still there. But do you feel the wholeness, the aliveness, the completeness, which lies beneath as the arms that carry the infant? Feel that. For it is you. As I extinguish the chalice, I share with you some words from Julia Hill entitled Arise, Beautiful and Free. May we love more. May we be committed to love in action. May we live to be the way we wish the world to be. May we be the transformation we would like to see in the world, from the inside out, from the roots branching upward, from the heart to thought to word to action. Through life's trials and hardships, we can arise beautiful, loving, and free. May it be so. Amen.